Proverbs 16:24 says, "Pleasant words are like honeycomb, sweet to the soul and health to the bones." I pray that this episode of HIME'S Honey will bless you and just inspire you to draw closer to the Lord as these days grow more and more evil every day. All right, let's get into it. So this episode, I wanted to focus on just talking about hookup culture and just mainly I wanted to give you guys a list of ways to make it easier to say no to such activities if you're struggling with it, if you have struggled with it in the past and if you see that it's wrong and you want to change something, this is the episode for you. Or if you're just coming to terms with maybe this is something that I'm considering stopping and, where do I start? This episode is also for you. It's just something that's been on my mind recently. And I would say I'm pretty good at saying no for a multitude of reasons, which we can get into. So I personally don't do hookup culture. I don't get it. I don't want to get it. I don't ever want to get into it. And here are a few reasons. Number one is intimacy, because I understand that, when the Bible says in Genesis 2:24, when it says, "A man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh," I take that very seriously, and growing up, that verse always stuck with me, and especially seeing in our culture how, sex and all of this stuff is very easy to get, and you see the ramifications almost instantaneously for those people that are honest with themselves. That just really solidifies it for me that, okay, I'm not gonna partake in that, and I'm not gonna allow myself to be involved. The second reason why I don't do hookup culture is because sexual intimacy was always something that I highly regarded, and I knew that breaking that by doing it with somebody that's not my husband, I knew that it would be very awful for the both of us, but I can really speak for myself because I'm the one who, has never done it before. I always just knew that it would be so harmful, and it would be, something that I would always think of, and, I would have to look at my husband on the night of our wedding, and I would have to be like, hey, just so you know, I have already, done this with somebody else who is not you. And that would be very heartbreaking, and I can't imagine saying that to my future husband, me personally. But if he has his own, thing going on, if he's already experienced it, then that's, none of, I pray that he hasn't, but if he did, then, I would forgive him. And that's, up to him and the Lord. And I know that the Lord is very forgiving, and I'm sure he's lived and seen the repercussions of it, but that's, for when the time comes. Third, as to why I don't do hookup culture is, I come from divorced parents, so I'm extra picky about the kind of guy that I'm going to become one flesh with, and I've seen, how awful it is to have sex be seen as not be seen, but something that's a bit more negative, you know what I mean? I don't really know how to word it, but let me put it this way. Because I've seen pornography and all these addictions ruin a marriage, I don't want it to ruin my marriage in the future. And I know that there's a lot of stigma of oh, if your parents are divorced, then you're more likely to be in divorce, or if you have successful parents, you're more likely to emulate that because you've seen it be done before, and you're gonna emulate that same healthy marriage and blah blah blah, which is that, there's a lot of truth to that, but I don't think we should be completely giving up on children who grew up with parents of divorce. Anyway, that's kind of neither here nor there for this episode. But that's just something that I wanted to point out. Because I come from, a broken marriage relationship, I definitely am more aware of what kind of man I want to marry and start a family with. I know who I don't want to. I have an idea on who I don't want to. And I also have an idea on who I want to start a family with. And I know that it really matters to the Lord. And the Lord does not, He does not favor divorce. And He wants us to really be wise about, our decision making. So those are the reasons why I don't partake in hookup culture. And there's other large plethora of reasons, but those are the main ones. And I wanted to give you guys a list on how to make it easier to say no to hookup culture. And also, if you have partaken in this lifestyle, I want to leave you with a little list of things to keep in mind. So number 1 is focus on yourself and your relationship with God. Like focus on starting a business that you're trying to build, school studies, getting promoted at work, or church, or, the gym, setting goals at the gym, and maybe even like getting a license, whether it be like a real estate license or a business, to start a business or to open up a cafe, or like anything that, you want to work towards. So I would focus on yourself and your relationship with God first and foremost. What does God have for you right now that, you're able to search and find Him in the things that are going on around you. And instead of going to like sexual intimacy, sexual immorality, I should say, to relieve stress, instead of going to that, you turn to God and, you kind of be like, okay, Lord, like, I'm struggling with this right now, like, but what do you have for me, and what do you say about me, and, who are you that you are mindful of me? So that's number 1. Number 2 is on times or days that you would usually engage in the activity of like sexual immorality, I would schedule something that is more wholesome, whether it be like a paint night, writing, reading, worship, self-care night, worship God, and then like put on a face mask or something. You could go to the gym and release all those feelings and get those endorphins, or perhaps even like, getting dinner with a friend and watching the sunset on the beach or something, or like, doing something fun. Go watching a movie with your friend, inviting a friend over and, watching a movie that you guys have been planning to watch or something like that. Do something more wholesome, if it comes to your mind. Especially doing things with the Lord. You can do things alone, but it's better to have the Lord in them with you. Number 3, I think, is really important. It is to learn about why hookup culture is unhealthy for you. So whether it be from like a biological or scientific perspective, sociological perspective, psychological perspective, or even like a biblical perspective, like a spiritual perspective, it's important to learn about why hookup culture is unhealthy for you in these various perspectives, because the more you are aware of how it's affecting you negatively, the less likely you're going to do it, because there's an implication factor. There's a real thing behind it that's hurting you. And I'm not going to get into it this video, but maybe in another episode. But yeah, just being aware of how it's unhealthy for you, and I think is a really good step in the right direction. Number 4 would be to stay away from people and settings that will put you in a situation that will cause you to stumble. I don't mean completely block them out of your life. I mean, you don't have to. That's up to you. That's your call between, you and the Lord. But whether it be like parties or certain men and women, dating hookup apps, whether it's like pornography, or even just simply like media, like movies and TV and YouTube and Twitch, whatever, that depicts these unhealthy situations as fun and harmless. Staying away from these things will, lead you to think about it less and to be exposed to it less. And by that, you're not letting it occupy and take up mental real estate. I think that's really important, to make sure the things that are living in your little houses and your mental real estate, that they're healthy, nice, and giving you life rather than death. Number 5 would be to share your struggles with people who care about you and who will understand. Surrounding yourself with people who won't push you away, like people who maybe even are struggling with the same thing, or just like people that will understand, I think is really important. And number 6 is kind of a branch to that. It is surround yourself with people who share your goals and who will hold you accountable. I think it's really important to have people in your life that will hold you accountable, that will, just understand your struggle and understand where you're coming from and be patient with you on this journey. I think it's really important to have those kinds of people around during this time of healing, and even in the relapse moments that could come around. It's important to have people who will understand and who will empathize with you, but will continue pushing you towards the right direction and towards being more Christ-like, or whatever it is that you may be searching for. But we're here, we love Christ in this household, so people who will, push you to be more Christ-like, and who will just be with you and be patient with you, and who will pray with you and pray for you and pray over you. Those kinds of people are really important, and I would keep them around if you have them in your life. And if you don't have them in your life, I would pray for them and pray that the Lord will lead you towards people like that. So those are my little tips on how to make it easier to say no to sexual immorality and all that. Once again, I'm not a professional, so if you do think that you need professional help, I would search a professional, go talk to a pastor, go talk to somebody that you trust, and, we're all here on this journey, and, we all struggle with our own things, and you're not alone in it, for sure. The worst thing you could do is be alone in it, so stop being alone if you're alone, and, don't worry about the shame that could come with it. Everybody, is ashamed of something, so don't be afraid of, it, and don't be afraid to reveal it to the Lord. And the enemy wants you to hide it and let it eat you and let it separate you from God and let it separate you from people. So don't let the enemy do that. Yeah, that's my final thing that I want to say. Have a good day, evening, whatever you're doing, and wherever you're listening, whether it be on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or YouTube, please be sure to share and leave a like if you're on YouTube. Drop 5 stars on Spotify, and I don't know what they do on Apple yet, but leave a like, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and ring the notification bell to be notified when I drop a new episode, and be sure to share if you really enjoy what I'm sharing. And I hope you have a good day, good evening, good afternoon. Have a good one. God bless, and see you in the next one.